with information about the millage, and we'll talk about that at the end of the presentation. Really encouraged to see all the interest. I'm glad to see everyone here. I know that you have a lot of questions, and I hope that we'll have this opportunity to answer those. Have a great team of people here to work with us on this project. First, I want to introduce our school board. Rick Nicodemus, our board president. Sure, stand up. Steve Hannibal, Leslie Baggett, Kylie Eford, and Owen Edwards. Also, with this part of our team for this project, I'm grateful for Beardsley Financial Services. Michael Dobbs is here. He's going to help answer questions after a while. With Architecture Plus, Michael Johnson and Krista Leach. With C.R. Crawford Construction, they're going to be our project construction managers. Scott Tokenberry and Connor Shaw. Did I say that right, Connor? Great. Okay, Bob, are you ready?
Yeah. I was trying to make it full screen. Control Shift didn't work.
Okay, let's get started. The theme of this project is going to be renewing schools and revitalizing futures. We want to talk about our proposal, what we want to do, why we're proposing this, and what everyone is interested in is what this might cost us. Go ahead.
Yes. No, that is. Yeah, that is.
Oh. Again?
I think it's okay.
Huh?
Is it not okay? I think it's okay.
You can advance it.
Oh,
And again,
okay.
and one more time. All right, our construction
I haven't
proposal.
been here for 4 months.
Thank you. The elementary project, you can see from the aerial here, an addition that connects the old main elementary to the safe room, and then an addition that is on the east side of the lower building. We go to the next slide, Bob. And then this is the print of that, and those are around the room, both front and back. You're welcome to take a look at those before you leave today. You'll notice in the middle where we want to close up and connect the buildings, that's going to do a couple of things for us. Provides us with some unified service areas. We're going to be able to keep our age groups together. We'll be able to separate our lower elementary and our upper elementary students. We'll keep all of our special needs services together in one location. We'll be able to provide therapy, mental health services to a growing number of students who need those. We're going to have an opportunity to improve our security on our campuses. With our middle school and our high school being right on Highway 71, that always poses threats and concerns to us. Our high school does set further off of the highway. By moving out of that building in the middle of town, that it may help us to mitigate some of those threats. Go ahead, Bob. Our high school, the additions we're proposing are on the south side of the building, and it's 2 additions, it's 2 wings. What this will allow us to do is keep our junior high separated from our senior high for the most part. We would propose a junior high wing. All of the 8 classrooms, 9 classrooms in that specific area would be junior high classrooms. It would also encompass 2 or 3 existing classrooms in that building that we're underutilizing. The second addition is for special education and therapy services. Again, we'll be able to keep those centrally located in one area. A couple of other things this will allow us to not do. Of course, it's going to improve safety and security, but right now we're running 4 or 5 shuttles a day between the high school and the middle school. How many is it, Mr. Brown?
Athletics, choir, athletics again in the afternoon, I'd say 4. By the time it's all said and done.
We can eliminate most of those shuttles and keep our students all on one campus most of the day and improve the safety for them. So the next slide talks about why do we want to go to K-6 and 712. From a elementary, middle school, and high school arrangement. Since 2005, we've experienced a drop in enrollment of 308 students. In 2005, we had 1,048 students. In 2025, we have 741 students. Why that is important to us is we function on our student count. By today's numbers, we receive $7,771 a student. That's what pays the bills. That's what keeps the lights on, runs the buses, pays the teachers. That's a reduction in revenue of $2.4 million a year. If we were comparing that 2005 numbers to today's numbers. The next slide may be difficult for you to see. I can put it back up after the slideshow. It shows the decline from 2014 to 2023. We declined steadily, and the decline started shortly after Whirlpool closed. I think everyone knows and understands that. The state generates a report, and they update it every year, and they use the census data, birth rate data, and some other indicators, and it's a trend to project enrollment. And over the years, myself and other superintendents, you can go to the next one, try to argue with this. We think that we know better than they do, but ultimately, it's pretty accurate. There's really only two things. If we look at this, the 24-25 projection is 723, that's current data. 10 years down the road, 2033-34, the projection is 691 students, or somewhere in the neighborhood of 700. Only one of two things is going to affect the accuracy of this report. A large employer moves back into this region and hires people. People will move for jobs. We'll see that trend data change to the better. If we lose another large employer similar to Whirlpool, we'll see that trend data change for the worst. I've had a lot of questions about why we don't fix the middle school. It really boils down to two reasons. The cost of the repairs is estimated at just over $5 million just to do the roofs and the heat and air units. They've both reached the end of their life. That doesn't include repairing ceilings, floors, painting walls, making the place look dressy. The high school, the 7th and 8th grade wing of the middle school will be 60 years old at the projected completion of this project. The prior high school that it replaced was 62 years old when it was moved out of. So you can kind of compare that as you outgrow the needs of one, you're looking at that same kind of time frame, 60 to 70 years. We're expecting a savings of approximately $850,000 a year. That's the efficiency piece of this. About 80% of that will be in personnel costs. About 20% of that will be in utilities and upkeep and general every year maintenance, not the repair maintenance. Now, I've had some questions about the personnel costs. What are our plans with that? Our plans are not to do an immediate staff reduction. At this time, it's still a little bit early in the game. We don't have to. We can allow attrition be our friend. We can allow, as people leave, to pursue other jobs, maybe get married and move off. As people retire, We'll take a look at whether that position can be absorbed or if we have to replace it. If we can absorb it, we will. So there's no plan of immediate staff reduction. What do we gain from this project? Well, we're gonna open a lot of doors for our students. We're gonna have an opportunity to offer more advanced courses because we can balance our staff more appropriately for our needs, more concurrent college credit courses. Lost my train of thought. Honors classes. We already have several programs, nursing, teacher prep programs, where our seniors have the opportunity to graduate high school with an associate's degree from college. We want to expand that. We want more of those opportunities for our students. On the flip side, we also want more career and technical education opportunities. Agribusiness, construction trades. We have some. I think that we're doing our kids an injustice if we educate every single one like they're going to go to college. Because there are so many great job opportunities that don't require a college degree. They're trade schools. We want to partner with those trade schools. We want to provide those opportunities for our kids. We want them to graduate from high school with certificates, ready to go to work. They call those high skill, high wage, and high demand jobs. And we want our kids to fill those. Some other opportunities for our students, state-of-the-art facilities. We could spend the same amount or more renovating the middle school and still be incredibly inefficient, or we can build approximately half of the classrooms that we're currently using, be more efficient, and provide better facilities for our kids. We'll be able to provide more supplemental services, therapy, occupational therapy, counseling services, mental health services, a growing number of students who require one-to-one interventions for reading, alternative education services. And the big one is safety. At the K-6, all of our students will be behind chain link all day. They'll stay indoors as they change buildings. They don't have to go outside. They'll have safe room access from both of our buildings without having to go outside. Some potential opportunities for our district. Now, obviously, I think we want to, and I'm going to get to this in just a few minutes, but we have structural issues with the 7th and 8th grade wing, and I think a lot of us know that we've had those for many years. And it's because it was constructed on such a high amount of fill, approximately 13 or 14 foot of fill on one end of it. And it just settled a little bit every year for a long, long time. That wing of the building needs to be demolished. But that would allow us to keep open our middle school gym for community resources. It would allow us to keep open the outer office area because that's not in the field. It would give access into the gym. And the 5-6 building on the hill that is connected to the cafeteria, that's a great place to build a pre-K. It would require very little renovation to serve our community with 3- and 4-year-old pre-K services. That's always been something that's pretty important to me. It's been my experience, both my experience and what I've witnessed, is that when students start out in a district in pre-K, about 90% of them stay in the district. They don't school choice outside of town. So we want to start them here. We want to provide those opportunities for our kids here and our families. It'll give better community access to the tornado shelter, the gyms, the rock gym. Obviously, that's a treasure. We want to protect it. We'll have better supplemental services. all over the district, dyslexia and mental health services, and again, safety and security. If you'll go to the next 2 or 3 slides, and they're gonna be really hard to see. So, what you're looking at are 2 different classrooms, and I could show you this on 6 or 8 classrooms, where the rock joints, or the block joints, are separated. They're separating because the floor is settling. Now, we've repaired these every couple of years. The next slide, Bob, shows you what a repaired joint looks like, but again, it's still separating. Now, it doesn't pose a structural safety concern to us today, but it will in the future. Okay. What you see on the right side is where the floor is separating from the wall. The reason that it's separating that way is when that building was built, it had block walls running perpendicular to the building, and parallel with the building were windows, solid wall windows. Everyone remember that? Some of you? After the air conditioning was installed, those windows were taken out and new exterior walls were constructed. And now some of those exterior walls are floating above the floor. And that's an issue that we have to deal with because the floor is settling. Water roof issues, that just shows you, that happened over a weekend. A leak developed, came into a flooded floor, and ceiling tiles fell out. Go on to the next slide. Took this picture today as I walked outside of my office. I know if any of you are involved in dropping off or picking up students, you're frustrated by the congestion. This will give us some more opportunities to alleviate that congestion. Maybe better reroute traffic, not have parents and students trying to be picked up at the same time on 2 different campuses. So let's talk a little bit about the millage. Some of you, I think, are interested in what this might cost. What we're proposing to do this project, our assessment is $86 million in the district. There's $86 million worth of property in our district. That is significant to you because 1 mill generates approximately 86,000, a little less actually, dollars a year to make a loan payment. So the more money that we need to borrow to do a project, the more mills it takes. Bigger districts such as Fort Smith, their millage is 1.2 billion. I think I have that on here, I'll get to it. So for what we need 5 mills to do, they can do for less than 0.02 mills. It's because of the assessment of the district. We're asking for an increase of 5.98 mills. That would bring our total to 45.99. Currently, it's 40.01 mills. The election will be May 13th. Voting places will be open at Mansfield, Huntington, Witcherville. Early and absentee voting are at the courthouse, and I believe Mansfield City Hall, is that correct? No.
No early,
I'm sorry?
no early voting.
No early voting? Okay. So the next slide is a common question. Is there a request for an increase in mills? Yes. We're requesting a 5.98 increase that would extend our millage to 2055, the new total at 45.99. The existing 15 mills that we're currently using to pay the debt on this building would be extended out for the same length of time as that. Currently, our millage is 40.01. 25 of those pay for maintenance and operation of the buildings. 15.01 are for debt service. These bond proceeds 5.98 mils will generate approximately $11,355,000 to do building projects with. If you've been following the economy, every year, the cost of doing business is going up drastically. Every year that we put this off, the cost is going to go up. The primary purpose of this millage is to build and renovate educational facilities. I've had a few questions about that. What's this money going to go to? Is this going to go to athletics? Is this going to go to this program or that program? The purpose of this is to build the 2 additions that we're proposing. We hope that our bids will come in low, we'll have a little money left to work with. We can use that to renovate other facilities and do some other things. But there's no guarantee that that'll happen. Mr. Dobbs, would you help me with this next a little bit? In the brochure that was handed out to you is this chart. It gives you an indication of what your property taxes might do if this were to come into play. Give you a few minutes to look at it. If your total taxes are less than $600 a year, then you won't see any increase whatsoever. The homestead tax credit is slated to increase from $450 a year, I believe, to $600 a year. I had mistakenly heard it was $750, but $600 a year will be the new homestead tax credit. So if your taxes are currently under $600, you'll see no increase. If your tax increase is over $150, you'll see no increase. If we break it down to a $100,000 home, that's $100,000 in property assessment. That's our property appraisal. That's a $20,000 assessment at 20%. You're currently paying $800.20 approximately. With the proposal, you would pay $919 a year. That's an increase in $119.60 a year, or $9.97 a month. Is there anything you'd like to add to that, or?
I think that really does, get over here where y'all can hear me. I do think that hits the basics. One thing I would point out, we are talking, school district millage rates here. That can vary depending on, as far as city and county villages are not included. So if you're in city limits or out of city limits, or in different counties. So those things can affect that. We're just talking about the school district millage rate that would apply to everybody in the district, regardless of what county you're in, what city you're in, et cetera. Again, homestead credit, so that's, at least $100 to $150 off of your tax bill from where you're currently at, starting next year. So that will offset, again, a large portion of that increase for most property owners. Beyond that, I think that pretty well covers it. We'll wait for questions at the end.
I just have a couple other things, and we'll get to what everybody really wants, questions. I kind of want to show you a little bit about how we size up, and I believe this is also in your handout. There are many schools with a higher property tax rate and millage rate than what we're proposing. There are many schools with a lower millage rate. It really all depends on the assessment of the district and some of the things that have happened in their construction projects in the past. I feel like what we're proposing is going to end up somewhere in the middle of the road. I know that, in our neighboring districts, what we're proposing would be 45.99. Boonville's proposing a millage increase of 44.5. Mountainburg is proposing a millage increase that would bring them to nearly 47. You can see what Fort Smith, Lavaca, and Greenwood are. And with that, I'd like to answer your questions. Yes, sir.
What's your plan if it doesn't pass?
One way or the other, we are going to have to become more efficient. This is the first, we have a deficit budget this year. We're spending more money this year than we are taking in. And that has to do with our enrollment drop. It has a little bit to do with the lack of ESA money. That's our pre-introduced lunch money that we get each year. If we have to try to crowd into the buildings the way they currently are, it can almost be done. It won't be comfortable for the students or the teachers, and we would have to utilize every single little space. Any other questions?
I have a question,
Yes, sir.
just, and I'm not being negative here, I've supported our schools all these years. But on the storm shelters, you were talking about the elementary, about them staying, under one roof and going to the storm shelters. What about the size of the two storm shelters, and how does that play with the increase in the population of, for that campus, and are all three of storm shelters paid for?
Our architect looked into the size of the storm shelters, and there's ample space in both of them. As far as are they paid for, I'm going to say that some part of their payment is probably still being serviced by that 15 mills that we currently have.
I'm just curious.
But those storm shelters, was that not part of a grant or something back when they were built that, I assume they were paid for?
It was before I was here, but usually when the storm shelters were built, they were paid for, partially paid for with a FEMA grant. And if I remember right, it was 75-25. The district was responsible for 25% of the cost. The way they're constructed, they typically cost about 4 times what it would cost to construct other classroom space. So the district was on the hook for about what it would have cost them to construct that number of square feet traditionally.
You got time for a little bit of a speech?
Can we wait till we get a few more questions? I'd love to, though.
Yeah.
I know you have thoughts and concerns. I really want to answer. Yes, ma'am.
How many classrooms are you proposing to be built at each campus?
So that I tell you correctly, at the elementary, we're proposing 4 regular classrooms, an art room and a PE room, or music room, as well as 2 special ed rooms and an ALE classroom. Approximately half of what we're currently required to have for 5 and 6 in their current location. At the high school, we're proposing 7 classrooms and 2 special education rooms. Which is about 2/3 of what it is taking right now.
If we only have half as many classes being built at the elementary for the 5th and 6th grade, how is that not going to increase our class size?
Because we have some classrooms that are being underutilized currently, and we can better use them and the teachers that we have in them this way. Yes?
What's your breakdown like at the elementary? How many kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth? What is your breakdown of your class?
Ms. Ferguson, would you, 4 kindergartens, 4 first grade?
Well, currently we have 4 kindergartens and 3 classrooms for each first, second, third, and fourth.
And how many students do you have?
It ranges, kindergarten, we're looking at 16, between 16 and 18, the upper grade, I think the first grade, the upper grade, 20 plus,
Your 16, 18 kindergarten, and 20 first grade?
about, yeah, 20, I think my fourth grade, has got like 22. Has about 22.
Anyone else? Go ahead.
Going back to the storm shelter,
Hmm?
as it is, when we do drills, it's quite crowded in there. If you're adding 2 more grades, even just to this campus, would you consider increasing the storm shelter size?
There would be a need to increase the shelter size, but we would be able to not utilize the shelter in the same capacity during the day that we currently are. So as far as a storm shelter, it's sized for about 200 more students than we currently would be putting in it with the transition.
Is that assuming, I guess, the children are standing up shoulder to shoulder, or are they sitting down, or how do you accommodate how they're in
I
there?
really don't have an answer for that. Maybe the architect,
I mean, when we think of our
FEMA
storm
standard-
shelter, we're like butts on butts, like we'll fit the family in there, but when you got kids in school and different ages.
The FEMA standard is on standing up,
Okay.
5 square feet per person. It's not very big.
Right.
That's the FEMA standard. Yeah.
do you have a question?
Yes. So we currently have 2 preschools now, one in Huntington, through the daycare and an ABC program. So why have a preschool for Mansfield? What would be the difference there? Would it be taught different? How, can you explain that? Why the preschool and early school?
I think that there's a need for more preschool positions than we currently have available. I have conversations with people regularly that wish that we had more preschool opportunities in our community. I think that we have a great opportunity here to fill that need and to do it in such a way that meets our kindergarten entrance requirements. Follow those ABC rules, ABC guidelines, and provide more than we currently have available.
So with the preschool, like I personally had to drive my kid to Greenwood, will it be income-based like those are? Because I didn't qualify for those.
We would look at both. The model that a lot of schools follow is a 2/3 and 1/3. 2/3 of the students are on the ABC model or ABC income-based program, and 1/3 of the students are paid positions. And if there's a need for more than that, we look at that too.
And if we had more kids in preschool, does that also increase the amount of students that we had and the more money that we get from the government?
Well, in a sense, yes, but it's not the same. The pre-K money is separate from the public school money, but it would more than take care of itself.
In junction to like the pre-K, I know that our tag program didn't get its grant. What is something like is the middle school gym gonna be utilized with these two? Or is it something that like the Boys and Girls Club?
It would still be our auxiliary gym in the afternoons,
Okay.
similar to what we do now, but our senior high students, there's not as much transportation that we have back and forth. We would get them there, and then they would be released at the end of the day from there. I am not opposed to, there's another grant that we're trying to pursue. We didn't get it to continue the tag program, so we'll continue to pursue that in the future. Sure.
So say that, something happens within our area, we get more students, and we're at full occupancy. What do we do then? We already have this millage here, would we propose another one? How would that work?
We actually will have ample space with this addition to take on a couple hundred more students without, bursting at the seams.
And then, again, would we have more money, more students, and we have more money?
More money, more students, we have funds available to do things incrementally, a little bit at a time.
I have another question.
That's fine.
So, what determines that amount of students that we receive more funding for? How many more do we have to have before we receive additional funds?
So funding is based on per student, and it's the prior year enrollment. So this year's funding was based on 23-24 enrollment. Our 23-24 enrollment was $723 students. We're funded at $7,771 per student. That's kind of the way that works. So when we, yes, you're right. Any other questions?
I have another one.
Please.
So, we're having to send them in eighth grade to high school. How are we going to segregate them to make certain, I have some concerns with them being so young, the maturity level.
That is the purpose of the wing that we're building, to keep them most of the day in that wing. Now, I can't say that from time to time they won't be traveling up and down the hallways. But with a little bit of an offset bell schedule for the junior high and the senior high, we can really eliminate a lot of that contact. It's actually very common in schools this size and lower to have a 7-12 arrangement. Yes, sir?
Coach Brown here, how are we dealing with the principals and the office personnel for the middle school? What's happening with them?
We'll have to make some transfers in positions.
I'm going back on like the classroom size based off of our K through 3, and then if the 5 and 6 join, you had mentioned some class have lower numbers, and so they would utilize either a different size somewhere. Is there a way you're still kind of keeping them in their own little section, or is by them utilizing those classrooms based off their size going to make them intermingle?
We would place them in different wings of the building or different hallways of the building where the numbers of classrooms fit with the numbers of classes of an age group that we have to work with. So the kindergarten would stay within their little pod of 4 classrooms. First grade would stay within their pod of 3 or 4 classrooms, whatever is needed, and so forth. And then up the 5th and 6th grade, we would probably, I think, stay with a departmentalized arrangement where they change teachers from math and English, and so they would have their own wing or their own section of the building where they stay together. Yes?
So, come August, what is it gonna look like for our 5th and 6th grade students? Are they still gonna be after middle school, or are they gonna transition down to elementary? How will that look?
Ideally, what would happen for us is this millage would pass, and we would start a transition into the construction phase of this project, hopefully get the construction kicked off sometime in October with an expectation that maybe it would be completed sometime in August of, right before the next school year. If that's the case, we would, try to keep our kids where they are during that construction phase and then make the transition later. Yes?
Is there any concern that the new wing at the elementary would take up a big chunk of the playground? Through the years for us that are been here for all of our lives, the playground has got smaller and smaller.
The playground keeps shrinking.
And kids need room to run and play.
They do, and it would require the relocation of some playground equipment, but there's a lot of that space, because of the way we supervise kids on the playground, that is not utilized at the same time. I don't think that it's gonna, there's a big open area that's really mostly used for PE. And then they're kind of kept out of that for the recess time because of supervision reasons. So I don't think that they're gonna lose a whole lot of space for play. We still have a large campus. We still have a lot of acres there to mow. Yes?
In the construction, it would not be done while school is in session, or I just wanna make certain, what were the timeframes that you guys were stating? The construction?
With the passage of the millage, it would take a few more months to complete the plans. And then, once they're completed, we would get approval from the state to do the project, and then, or approval of the plans to do the project, and then try to start construction somewhere around October of this fall, with a completion date sometime around August of next summer.
And how is that gonna look for the kids that are in session, that are in school, and the construction that's happening? Is there gonna, do we already have a plan of how we're gonna?
These guys do that all the time, at schools. He may want to speak to it. They do a really good job of keeping students safe on campuses, though.
Hopefully y'all can hear me. What I would tell you, ma'am, is this: when this gentleman and his group gets done with the plan, we'll put together a safety program that'll clearly outline how the materials coming in and out of the job site, how the students are coming in and out of the job site, how the personnel, the school, the teachers are getting in and out. All that will be managed by Connor Shaw and his team. So it's a well thought out plan. Joe and the board will have an opportunity to approve everything, tweak it, to adjust it. Of course, it'll be pushed out to the community so y'all understand how to get in and out of the district, how to get out of the school.
And they're all background checked, all the workers,
I'm sorry?
all the construction workers are background checked.
Yes, ma'am, they will all be background checked. If there's a problem, we'll find somebody else.
Yes, sir?
On the bid process, will it be bid out, be publicized, the different companies that bid, the lowest bid, the ratings? I mean, will it be a very open book with several companies, opportunities to bid?
It will follow a very detailed bidding process, so I'm going to let Scott talk about that too.
I'll be happy to address that as well. So we will solicit bids from your various different trades. We prefer to get as many of them possibly as we can locally. When the bids come in, there's a team of people, Connor being part of it, the estimating team will go through the bids and evaluate whether or not they meet the criteria on the plans. Those conversations will be had with Mr. State and the board, and a decision will be made on that subcontractor. My responsibility is to make sure there's not any holes in those bids, meaning we leave something out. So we spend a lot of time looking at the plans, communicating with the architecture team, and reviewing the bidders before we assign a contract.
We're talking about spending approximately $9 million worth of the district's money, so we want to do everything that we can to be good stewards of that.
Who's paying these guys' salary now?
I'm sorry?
Who's paying these guys' salary now?
I didn't get that, I'm sorry,
He
sir.
wants to know who's paying your salary now.
Nope, I I mean, I'm paying my own salary, nothing to do with Mansfield, sir. I mean, we have other jobs outside the group.
He says he's got y'all hard. Some of y'all give money.
I have not drawn a check yet, sir.
I'm sorry, he's not currently employed, he is, contracted to help us through this stage of the process at no cost. Now, if, the millage passes, we'll sign a contract with his company, and they'll bid out and complete the project for us.
Yes, sir.
That's, I'm sorry, but
I
yes.
misunderstood your question, I apologize.
Somebody's paying their salary now.
Yes, what he's doing now is in hope for, this process starting.
What I'm talking, somebody's paying their salary now, they're not doing it on, hopeful, on steel farm.
We're not.
So thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So
ma'am.
how does the financial side of that work? Are you, you give them a bid, we're gonna pay this $10 million or whatever this is, and then they go forward with that? Or do we have a floating balance out there
So
that could be more expensive than we anticipate?
it could be more expensive than we anticipate. It's not a hard bid project. They work on a percentage. We get, once the project is, approved and put out for bid, let's say we're bidding the concrete part of the project and we get 10, bidders, we'll try to go with the lowest bidder, but we want to make sure that they're capable of doing the job. Our goal is to go with the lowest bidder, but they also have to have the qualifications to complete the job. At the end of the day, they manage all of that process, and then they get a percentage of the overall fee for their services.
So do we have a cap on what we expect this to cost that is there? Or are we just approving this millage, hoping that it's gonna cover everything? Where are we on the determination for that?
With any project like this, there's not a guarantee. If it comes in above, that it's gonna cost more than the millage will bring in, then we'll have to re-engineer the project so that it costs less. It might mean taking out classrooms or other things, but unfortunately, it's an open market and there's no way to determine a hard price. There is a way to determine it, but we'll have to pay more on the front than it actually would cost us.
So does the school have a team that's gonna be looking at that, or will that just be the construction company that is responsible for making those decisions to try to get that in there?
They'll work with me and the board to do all of those things. Ultimately, we approve every single bidder. They just do the legwork on collecting the information.
Yeah, I think it's more, she's trying to say, is there somebody who has skin in the game, like, understands these kids and like what's actually needed? And I know that that's what the board's for, and that's what she's want to make sure, is it the construction company making it say, hey, you need this or you don't need this? Or is it people who know what our kids' needs are there to vouch for?
That's mine and the board's job. Ultimately, the board's job, but they hire me to do that. I probably, yes, sir.
The construction be done in phases, or you do one campus and the other, or you gonna do both of them at the same
Our
time?
goal is to do both of them at the same time. It will cost us less in the long run to do it that way. Because those contractors at different phases can be here and working on one project and then the other.
What do we, if we have more questions later on, who is it that we need to talk to?
You can reach out to any board member, and I'm sorry, guys, I probably should have started this question and answer with letting you guys talk a little bit. So I'm gonna do that in just a minute. You can reach out to the board members, myself, you can send me an email or call me or come by the office. I'll be more than happy to talk to you. Our regular monthly board meetings, if you'd like to come and watch the board meeting, I think that Mr. Nicodemus will give you opportunity to speak if you have questions or concerns. Board, would you like to add anything? I'm sorry, I should have started with you.
I think maybe if we could have them give a little bit of their company's experience, and what they do for other schools.
Okay. We vetted about 10 different construction management teams before we came up with the decision to go with C.R. Crawford. All had some great experience, got good reviews from a lot of different school districts that have worked with all of them. But ultimately, I felt like these guys and the board felt like these guys, we would get just that much more bang for our buck. They were going to work harder to help us save money on the project. So with that said, I'll let you guys talk for a little while.
My name is Scott Stokenberry, and Connor Shawshaw. We're with C.R. Crawford Construction. For those who don't know anything about our business, I'll be happy to give you a little history lesson right quick. We were founded in 2006 in Fayetteville, Arkansas. We are Arkansas-owned, Arkansas-operated. Construction business, particularly of schools, is a big portion of our business. I would tell you probably 30-40% annually for districts across the state. We prefer the small rural districts. We all grew up in small rural districts and operated in these towns across the state. We've made a habit of getting out and getting in front of people like yourself, trying to understand what your needs are, what we can do to help and aid and abet your situation. It's a construction management contract, meaning, like Mr. State said, we recruit the subcontractors, solicit the numbers, having the architect and the board involved, and put together the total price for the project. At that point in time, the board and the state will have the opportunity to review everything. I welcome questions about all that. I'm not trying to hide anything. We're here to answer anything you may have tonight. And I'll hush and see what you got to say.
So whenever you said earlier about trying to use local contract, so that can essentially put money back into our community because you've used somebody locally to do a job for this.
And let's be specific about that. They need to have enough manpower to meet our schedule. They need to be able to follow our safety program. Again, going back to like what we talked about previously. We prefer to have local help. And it's easier on the warranty side of things as well. I can pick the phone up and call the guy and say, hey, we've got a problem with this 6 months down the road, and they're not driving from Pine Bluff or wherever else. So yes, we advocate local help when we find it.
Scott, you may tell me about how we do a sealed bid, and we'll meet and open the bids in the administration office, and it's like everybody's seen them for the first time. And then we're all gonna vet those subcontractors, and, we'll go from there.
So what Mr. Nicodemus is referring to is we'll take the plans, the Architecture Plus produces, we'll create what we call a scope, a bid package, so Mr. Electrician will have a clear set of goals for his involvement with the project. Connor and his estimating team, Connor's the project manager, will send these bids out to everybody within a 3 or 4 hour drive here, saying, hey, XYZ electrician, we'd like you to bid our project. At that point in time, hopefully, the bids will come in, we'll call them, we'll follow up, what can we do to answer your questions about the plans? And then like Mr. Nicodemus said, we'll gather those bids up, along with the board, sit down and go through them. And that's what we call our bid qualification phase. Can this contractor meet our schedule? Does he have the manpower to meet the schedule? How far is he traveling? What's his number look like compared to the other contractor? Does he have everything? That's the construction management process. And we'll sit down with the board and say, hey, we like this guy and here's why. If there's somebody that's involved in the community, by all means, we'd love to hire him.
Can you speak to the overages?
As far as the budget overages, we've been doing this since 2006, and we haven't had any overages at a maximum, and this goes back to COVID days, I'd say 10%, when things got crazy. All your work is done on the front end of the deal, folks. You dig in, you make those phone calls, you review the plans, you go over this with the subcontractors. And then if you get a problem on the budget, we go back and start looking at things, what can we do to make it a more financially feasible project?
Ultimately, the subcontractors are chosen by the board.
Correct.
These guys just do the legwork of making sure that we get enough good quality bids to make a good choice.
And then we manage the project and honor his team.
You have an on-site job superintendent, have safety meetings every morning, hard hats required, fenced off, background checks.
Yes.
Safety of the students, number one.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd just like to speak to some of my experience. I've been working at schools my entirety at C.R. Crawford. I'm currently on 2 different school districts, hoping to get them finished up shortly. And so I have an immense amount of experience dealing with kids running in and out of the classroom, and we are able to create temporary walkways for these kids, fence off construction area, and keep construction ultimately away from what would have disturbed students' life at the school.
During our interview process with these 9 or 10 construction management teams, and it may have been you, we had one that did a renovation of Northside High School, and they put a second floor on Northside High School while students were in the classrooms underneath it. So these guys, they know what they're doing as far as safety.
What kind of warranty is coming with like your work? I mean, is it guaranteed for 5 years, 10 years?
You get a 1-year warranty on everything. Now, some of the components of the building, sir, maybe your windows or whatever may have a 20-year warranty.
Okay, we're talking about like the engineering on the dirt work. That's what we're running into on our other deal. What happens if your engineers?
So we need to hire a certified, i.e. licensed geotech engineer, do the inspections, be a part of the process. Michael, if you want to chime in here.
You're doing well.
Okay. That's one of the biggest risks of the whole project, is what goes in the ground, y'all. Without a doubt. And if it's not done right, you see what happens.
Yeah, but any settling, even if, we pay a high dollar engineer, if he's wrong, we won't know if your warranty's up.
You'll know if there's a problem on that kind of stuff fairly quickly, sir.
Usually a little over a year.
The locations we're building on, we don't anticipate, that kind of risk.
I mean, do you know what type of soil complex that is? If it's a rye fill complex?
We'll actually have that. We'll have that done.
I mean, you know how far down to a shell bed, how much you're gonna have to fill in and all that? I mean, y'all have all that data.
Again,
We're not gonna be looking at this again in another 20 years?
No, sir.
they have, the construction process has changed a lot in the last 60 years. I think you know. We'll have a, what is?
Geotech. Geotech.
Geotech's not the word I'm thinking of, but we'll have that, survey done of the site where they know what's underneath it and above it and around it.
Yeah, I understand that. I was just asking what kind of, I mean, because they can say, well, he can say, well, it costs
It's not impossible to still have problems, but we don't anticipate that with where we're proposing to build. Again, even on the front end of this project, I think that we have, we put our effort into building what we need, what we think we have to have, and not just what we want. So all of those things have been taken into account. If we build in another place, we might have to move these utilities, but if we build in this place, we won't. We're really looking at trying to build it for the least cost possible.
Anything else?
One more question for you.
Yes, sir.
What's the life expectancy of our current elementary building? How many more years are we expected to get out of it? How old is it?
It's had more renovations done to it in the past than our middle school. It has a fairly recent roof. I can't remember the date, but I think within the last 10 years, it had a membrane roof put on it a little over 10 years ago. It should have a 25-year life expectancy. The heat and air units are mostly newer on that campus than they are on the middle school campus. The middle school campus was, all the HVAC work was done at one time. And it was 20 years ago on one, the money was all borrowed, the whole campus. The last payment was made on it 2 years ago. And here we are needing to,
Yeah, that's
we're
the reason why I asked,
we're
is a
replacing
30-year
it every
millage,
year.
if we're gonna get, if we're gonna be coming back for more millage. This isn't gonna cover those expenses for that building.
Correct. Please, if you have any questions, you'll ask them, because we really want to try to, I know that there's probably, everyone in the room is thinking of the same question. They just want somebody else to ask it. At least that's the way I do.
Is there any water issues on this property?
No, it's all very well drained. None of it is building in, none of it is building in a hole where we're proposing to build. We do have water issues on our property in different locations, but where we're proposing, it's all fill, not cut. I always, and we've done it here too in the past, but it's kind of like a running joke. Every time we see a new school building built, they dig a hole and put a building in it, and it creates water issues. But where we're building is going to require fill and not cut. Rick, anything you'd like to add? Steve?
Vote for the millage. Contact anybody you think can help us vote for it. Public schools are under attack. We have 120 kids in our district that are homeschooled. Say they got 5 kids that want to homeschool, now they're gonna get the check for $35,000. 7,000, well, maybe 6 now, 7 later. There's competition now for students. Lake Road at Ellen Park, there's 3 buses run. Louisville, Waldron, Mansfield. They coach our kids. They also run Freedom Road. Those people live in our district, they need to be paying the millage. They don't want their kids to come here, that's okay. If they want to go somewhere else, I don't think the state should pay to run a bus out there to pick them up, but evidently they get by with it. There's parts of our district, I think Greenwood, they think they own it now. They got the whole, whatever. Those people need to be paying the millage. Ellen Park, we have homeschoolers, they run 25 chicken houses. They need to be paying millage. Vote for the millage. We're located here on a US highway, visible, the school's always clean in my opinion. We got a lot to offer. There's gonna be a new highway through here shortly, I hope. We gotta hold on. We can make this a great district. Vote for the millage.
Yes, early on, when you were talking about the numbers going down, the student enrollment numbers, I was just curious, have we put out any effort to try to brainstorm on what the school can do to do that? I'm just kind of curious. I figured you had, I just was curious what ideas you might come up
A
with.
percentage of it is students leaving the district, and a percentage of it is students going to homeschool. But the bulk is smaller kindergarten programs. We're graduating more kids in a year than we have started a lot of years. It has to do with birth rates. It has to do with folks living in the community. Yes, we do have students doing school, or parents doing school choice, and we did have parents doing homeschool, but really, our class sizes are just being smaller. Yes?
As far as like our numbers going down, I mean, I know it has to do with people living in the area, things like that, but how many are we losing to like school choice approvals? Because I know that's a big thing, like people in the area are choosing.
I wish I had brought that data with me. It is a number. It's not a huge substantial number, but it is a number.
Can we say we can't do that?
He mentioned that we have approximately 120 students in our district who are homeschooled. We have approximately, gosh, I don't want to tell you wrong, between 30 and 45, 30 and 50 students who are school choicing to another district.
Which our board has to approve that school choice, correct?
Not anymore. That used to be the case, but now they are just approved.
They just have to be signed up on the deadline, before the deadline.
The only way that we can deny a student entering the district is if it's gonna cause us to have to hire a new teacher. Because we're bound by class sizes. If we have 28 students in a class, and it's gonna put us up to 29, we can deny a student coming in, which we don't wanna deny anyone coming in, but we can't reject anyone leaving anymore. That was the case until the LEARNS Act.
Are they primarily going to one school and then leaving?
Now, most of the kids who leave us are moving out of the district altogether. We have more students going to Greenwood than any other school. We get more students from Hackett than we do any other school. I don't know why that is, but
Hartford's Hackett School District.
I'm sorry?
You said they are going to Greenwood, and where are they coming from?
Hackett.
Hackett?
I think I was gonna expand on.
We've got to make this school district look,
Give me an aerial.
yeah, so we got to make our school district look appealing to the scenario I always look at is, you know, you got Greenwood down the street. Everybody thinks Greenwood's the greatest thing since whatever. They got 80 kids on their football field.
Skyview.
Where is it? There's 40 of them, or 50 of them, they don't even have to wash their uniforms, because they're never gonna see the field. If we can start poaching some of those kids can come over here and play, you know? I also blame it on my son.
But we can't recruit.
My son is 40 years old. Yeah, we can't recruit. We can throw it out there. We went through a phase where these kids that are my oldest boy's age, they thought, well, Greenwood was the only place to be, and that's where they're at. They're starting to filter back slowly, but there's no place for them to live. It's because we've got all these old timers with all this land, and nobody will sell it. We need to get a housing addition built. And that's been one of my goals for the last 2 years. I talk to contractors almost weekly about trying to get them to come down here, look for land that's for sale, and build houses.
We need a lot more
When
land.
you get on Facebook,
Multifamily housing.
how many times you get on Facebook and you see somebody looking for a place to live? Every day, every single day.
That would help more than anything, housing. We need places for people to live. We need homes. Hey, if you drew an imaginary line at the west wall of the gym, about there, everything west of that, we would need to, demolish. And the reason for that is if we underutilize a space for more than a year, then any private school in the state can come and lay claim to it. If we're not using it to educate kids, they can come and say, I want that. We're gonna have a private school or a charter school or something right there on your campus. And we don't need that.
Didn't happen in Hartford, did it?
Well, it's a long way from
They tried to get some car school over and they said no. Why? Nobody could tell them.
Yes, sir?
So if the preschool don't go, and you said that's gotta be put out, where you gonna utilize that building?
Well, we wanna put a preschool in.
But I'm just saying, I mean, there's gotta be an alternate plan, because what if it don't go?
Are you planning on using like ABC preschool, Head Start?
We would like to do primarily an ABC preschool. With the Learns time period, some bills passed during the Learns era. The ABC program was moved under the Department of Education, away from DHS. So, there's going to be push to expand ABC in the public schools. It hasn't been done yet because of lack of funding on the state level.
But this project is not for the preschool.
This
This
project
is for this,
is-
and that will be a separate issue at a separate time, once all of this is done.
Yes. Once all this is done, if there's any money left over from the millage, we can use it to help the renovation, which is minimal. I mean, essentially, toilets that are about this tall and a few other things. But, and then the savings that we would generate annually would help pay for things like that.
So you're saying you're gonna put toilets about that tall, are you gonna put them in every one of those classrooms? And plumb every one of those classrooms?
You don't have to, you just have to have a magazine of so many students taking them to the public bathroom, waiting
I
for
work
them
in
to
that
come
setting.
back to the classroom.
And I know what it's like to have to take a whole class to a whole different place to go to the bathroom.
That's not,
But you don't have to, then you could have a floating para that could, that's not paid as much, but they can help with that coverage. You wouldn't have to.
I haven't thought about how to do that so that it doesn't,
It's hard.
it doesn't interfere with your, required, staffing ratios. Any other thoughts? Questions? What have you had some things you wanted to share with us? Would you like to now?
Move to mine.
Thought I forgot about you.
Didn't know what they would.
Just thought I wanted to share a few things. Appreciate Mr. State letting me have a few minutes. I go way back on Mansfield School. My goodness, so far back I can't even remember. But it's important to me. I came back to teach here in the 1971-72 school year. we're talking about he was showing slides about the, what was the high school at the time, you know, now middle school, so on, that was built on a field that the county, hauled dirt and put in there. But anyway, you could, be in one room and eat, okay, this is the early 70s I'm experiencing here. It was finished in the late 60s. Okay, you could, look through the cracks into 2 or 3 other classrooms straight down the line. So, you know, that has been maybe not a real good deal all the way through. So I understand what he's saying there. I'm not a money cruncher, I'm not an architect, but I am a fan of Mansfield School. I spent, you might as well say, my whole life here. Starting at 7 years old, my mother wouldn't start me until I was 7. Thought I wasn't ready. I'm not sure I am now. But anyway, I'm going to vote for this millage. I have seen schools that had to close down or consolidate or be taken over or whatever. It's not pretty. The town is, you know, we're not in the desert or the high plains or anything where there's tumbleweeds, but if we lose our school sometime, you can just practically see the tumbleweeds going down the street. It'll be about that bad. We've got enough old buildings now, you know, you could film a Western movie here. Anyway, I'm gonna vote for that because, you know, we've got to keep our school going, we've got to keep it fresh, we've got to keep things moving. One of the biggest things that we have that kind of draw people is our athletic program, especially football. Congratulations, coaches, and all that. We've got an agri program that's up and coming now. We want to keep the momentum going, folks. We don't want to lose our school. So that's just my plug. I'm going to say I'm voting for it. Somebody said, well, they're raising my taxes. Well, my taxes go up every year anyway. What's the difference? I do. Here, but
Owen, I just think, I mean, we can look back at the past, and there's things we can't control. We can't control that we split the 3 campuses. We can't control that we suddenly had an exodus of students. Couldn't control COVID, and look how much that's changed all of our lives. But we had to stay fiscally responsible. And I don't think we can do that at 3 campuses. And the more fiscally responsible we are, the longer we can keep our schools running. So I would just hope everyone does vote for it. I mean, I believe all of us on the board are doing the best we can to make sure that decisions are fiscally responsible. I think he does a great job of doing that. So I don't think we're nickel and diming people to just have the latest and greatest things. I think this is a decision you make now that could help you have the school here in 2 years. If you wonder what a school can do to you going out, drive to Hartford, drive around the community. I've done it. I get bored sometimes. So I drive around the community. It is going away. We drove, when we used to live in Little Rock, we would drive through multiple towns that lost their schools. When the school goes, the town goes. Just be my hope that everybody gets on board and does this for both the school and the town.
Any other questions?
I just want to say I'm grateful for all of you coming out, whether you support it or not, whether you agree with it, whether you vote for it or against it. I'm grateful you're here. I'm grateful you have an interest in this school. I'm grateful that you have questions. I'm available most any time. You can call me, text me, email me, or stop by the office. Sometimes I'm hard to find in the office, but stop by anyway, we'll figure it out. You can reach out to any one of these guys. They'd be really happy to talk to you about what we wanna do. If we need to have another one of these meetings before May, I'll be happy to do that too. If there's nothing else, best thing to do is go vote, one way or the other.